Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here more than ever with Kevin Noon. Kevin, how's it going?
It's going well. We are here in frigid Indianapolis. We had a nice walk through the cold to get here, and we're set up in the Indianapolis Colts press box and ready to talk a little bit about this Big Ten championship game. And if that's not what we're talking about, then I'm in the wrong place.
No. We will eventually talk about that. Yes, we are here in Indianapolis. We are in the press box area, so if there's a little bit of background noise, forgive me, forgive Kevin, forgive the both of us. We would appreciate that. Of course, we are here to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you want to throw your super chats in there, super chats, of course, will go to the top of the line, and we will cut off our sentence mid-sentence to handle whatever it is that, well, within reason of what that super chat might be. But welcome everybody here. Kevin, 1 versus 2. First time in Big Ten championship game history. First time 1 versus 2 in the Big Ten since 2006. Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State won that one 42-39. If people remember, if this game is 42-39, who does that benefit?
Wow. If it's 42-39, the TV stations, the TV networks, if that's going to be the case. I think, if Ohio State is a team that's predicated on defense, if Ohio State gives up 39 or 42, I don't know how that looks really good for Ohio State. I mean, I think Ohio State would like to try and keep Indiana south of 20. I mean, obviously the goal is to keep them at 0, but I think 35-20 is a much more comfortable pace for Ohio State than 42-39.
Yeah, that would be a wake-up call, and it would cause some concern as to, is this what it's going to be like when you finally face an offense that is any good? And, well, maybe. I wouldn't expect that. Not expecting 42 or 39 from either team in this one. But I do think there is – we talked about this in the car on the way over – a little bit of fool's gold when it comes to Indiana's running game, where they're averaging, they're leading the Big Ten in rushing this year. I think 230 yards over 230 yards per game, except when they face top 25 defenses, that average drops to 99.7 yards per game. So, Kevin, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Ohio State, top 25 rush defense. They're number 4 in yards per game this season. I'm sure you're aware of that. But which Indiana rush game is the real rush game? The one that struggles against real defenses, or the one that runs for 350 yards against Purdue?
Yeah, I mean, they got fat in some of those games. They ran for 309 in their opener against Old Dominion. They ran for 313. They ran for 301, and then in their the Illinois game, which is the one that I had the hardest time really kind of getting my head around, they ran for 300 plus in that game as well. But Roman Hamby is a talented runner, but I don't see him being the back that breaks Ohio State's back. I think we're closer to seeing the 99-yard rushing offense versus the 250-yard rushing offense.
Yeah, and I think what will make Indiana's run game better is Fernando Mendoza on scrambles, on third downs. Frankly, he will pull it on read options and pick up 7, 13, whatever, and supplement the hard-fought yards. I think a way for them to get some easy yards is Fernando Mendoza. And just looking at some of the comments here from Devin Paul, is there a Big Ten championship game tonight? According to ESPN, only the SEC plays today. That was something I noticed on the radio. They were coming live from the SEC championship game, so you could sort of understand that, but there's been very little talk that I've seen it. Listened a little bit to Game Day in the car this morning, and this feels like, while it's 1 versus 2, it would be feeling much bigger if ESPN was involved in any portion of this, or wanted to be involved in any portion of this.
Well, you sit there and you get the big check from Fox and CBS and NBC, and you shut out ESPN, and this is kind of what you get. I mean, this should not come as a surprise. I think anybody in the industry told you this was coming, even if ESPN said, "Oh no, we're going to play it straight." No, they weren't. You protect the product.
Yeah.
I was a television sports producer for a long time in a previous lifetime. You always protect your lead in. Your lead in is the SEC, so that's going to be the case. So, and I think part of the problem too is that both of these teams not only are in, barring 59-0, both of these teams are going to get buys. So, is this, you're really, I mean, what are we trying to determine here? Who's going to be the one seed? Who's going to go to the Rose Bowl? I mean, sure, ESPN has an interest in it being able to be the ones that are going to be televising that. But with that being said, there's not as much interest there because there's no real drama other than who's going to win the game.
And to me, honestly, this year's SEC championship game feels very blah. And, when you've got Alabama ranked number 9 in there, I think you could say that that's a lesser championship game for sure. Comment here from John Eric. How long have we watched football? It better be a bunch of turnovers. If you all talk anything outside of Ohio State win. I don't think either of us have talked much outside of an Ohio State win in this game because we've watched Ohio State, we've watched Indiana, and when you watch them both, it's much easier to see an Ohio State win in this one. If you go and just go position by position, Ohio State is going to out-position them, but it's not quarterback versus quarterback or running back versus running back. It's running back versus linebackers and defensive line. But even then, the Indiana defensive line isn't known for penetrating. It's been very good against the run. Ohio State's getting better against the run. I think when we're just dealing with comments like us picking Ohio State or whatever, it's like all signs are pointing to Ohio State. I think the line being 4 points it's definitely lower than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I thought it would be closer to 7. I really thought it would be closer to 7. I understand we're talking about the number 1 and the number 2 teams in the nation. I understand we're talking about an Indiana team that has drilled most of its opponents by 40, 50 points, but that's also been a choice. Ohio State certainly could have drilled a lot of its opponents by more points if it were going to get out there and run more offensive plays and push the ball down the field a little bit more. You win the game by 1, win the game by 101. It doesn't really matter because you're playing just for the victory. You're not playing for margin of victory. You're not playing for style points. None of that's really going to matter at this point. But yeah, for a 3.5, 4 point line, it was 4 points as we crossed into Indiana. I was like, oh, let's take a look because you can't get player props in Ohio. So wanted to see kind of what some of the player props were because I was curious and was still seeing it at 4 and I was shocked. I mean, things could move in the next hour once sharp money comes in, and I'm going to look that up while you start talking, but who knows?
And we will get the injury report, the availability report in about an hour. No reason to be concerned right now about any of that. Ryan Day said Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate were fine going into practice, coming out of practice this week. They're better than they were a week ago. So no real concerns there for the Buckeyes, and no reason to be worried at this point that somebody's going to pop up out of the blue. It's not like what's going on in Alabama and Georgia where they have all of these injured players.
Right.
I would expect everything to be okay for Ohio State. When we talked about last week, Matt Patricia versus Bryce Underwood being the biggest mismatch of that game, I think Bryce, the Matt Patricia versus Fernando Mendoza here is a much better matchup, but so much of what Indiana does is RPO based and in terms of the passing game. And so it feels like I don't want to say a simple offense for Matt Patricia, but Ohio State has the kind of defense that can handle the RPO better. But overall, this is going to be the best offensive test we've seen for Ohio State this year based on all the skill, the production, the aggression. How are you expecting the Ohio State defense to handle all of that?
Successfully. That's how I'm expecting to see it. I mean, we've seen so much sim pressure and things of that nature, but at this point you just have to play disciplined football. And at what point this year have we seen Ohio State's defense get really out there and start freelancing and doing things that, I mean, we're a long ways away from 5 to 7 big plays being baked into the defense. And Lord knows I don't want this to become a Matt Patricia versus Jim Knowles argument. That's irrelevant at this point. But I think that something that we've seen under Matt Patricia is this defense just it does what it's supposed to do. It does what it's supposed to do. Sure, we've seen a bust here or there, but they're few and far between. I mean, you see busts in the National Football League. It's not like it's like, oh, these damn kids and their long hair and their rock and roll music. Why can't they play defense correctly? Sometimes you just scheme things up. But more often than not, this defense is just shutting people down and keeping everything in front of them.
Well, you say the defense does its job. It's because all 11 are doing their jobs, not trying to do more because they trust each other. They know they don't have to do more. Arvell Reese doesn't have to worry about Sonny Styles, and Caleb Downs doesn't have to worry about Jalen McClain. Nobody has to worry about Caden McDonald. So it's a lot easier for everybody to do with their 111th when they know the guys next to them are also going to be doing it. And so this is going to be fun to watch just because we haven't seen Ohio State tested like this. I do like seeing this defense pushed. I do like seeing it stretched, and they're going to throw the ball. Indiana's going to throw the ball around. They're going to try to run it around, and they're going to stress Ohio State in different ways. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they respond because they've responded very well so far this season.
Tony wants to make things difficult. We're going to get to the super chat in a second. I just want to see. I just want both teams to have a lot of fun. I just want everybody to have a lot of fun, and then we can get on to tomorrow and be at the Woody. So just be sure to join us. We'll be there. We don't know what time their press conference is. I guess the outcome of tonight's game will determine some of that. But, it's going to be a busy weekend.
Going to be a busy weekend. Stay tuned here. Hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel right now. Hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate that as well. Super chat from Murphy Serafino. Over 230 passing yards for saying fast track asking for a friend. Certainly that friend will not be placing
my friend Las Vegas.
I think 230 is a pretty good number. I think that's an easy enough number to hit.
I mean, I would tease that up a little bit more. I think I would tease up to like 250.
Yeah, no, I think you can. 230 seems like a very easy hit, and if it's not, I feel like that's because Ohio State's running the ball very well and they're in complete control. Which is, if you lose that bet, but Ohio State wins a comfortable Big Ten championship game, you'll probably take it. But 230 yards for me, I feel like that's sometime in the third quarter, basically. If things are like you're talking about a fast track. Indiana plays a lot of zone. Ohio State, Julian saying, very good against the zone. They can scheme it up. We've seen them be able to get deep on the zone at times, so they'll find ways to take shots. They just have to connect on them. And what I've seen from Indiana safeties, they have 9 interceptions between the two of them, and their 2 starting safeties. But I haven't seen them stand out and make plays. And same with the corners, but I haven't seen opponents really go after D'Angelo Pons.
I really like Pons. I think Pons is a hell of a player. I have a common friend with Murphy Serafino. His name is Las Vegas as well, and he may or may not have missed out on hitting a multi-legger last week because Julian Sand came up 18 yards too short. So, and again, if Ohio State needed to press more, they absolutely would have hit that number. So that's what makes all of that. There's a reason why the house always wins.
Well, and Ohio State ran the ball very well last week, so they didn't need to throw it as much, and they had a comfortable lead. So, again, you lose the bet, but is anybody that loses that bet really all that upset when you bought yourself a win? So think of it that way. You invested in a win, and you got that. Everybody, congratulations to all of you.
I want to hit this from Sage. When will we see C.J. Hicks? Next year.
Next year,
I mean, maybe in a Buckeye uniform, maybe in another uniform, but he's been redshirted. Maybe this doesn't count against redshirt now. So, maybe you could see him in special teams. But for people wanting to see him as a rush end, no, that's you dance with the ones that brought you at this point, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and they've been without Logan George for a while, so they're a little bit thinner, but Zion Grady's been getting a lot of reps. I think people just I'm not saying that that's what the expectation is, but there are some people who think you can just plug him in and have him go get the quarterback. And even Ryan Day said, well, he's been working scout teams, so they're going to get him back onto the Ohio State defense. But I'm not expecting to see him other than in mop-up duty. I mean, we saw we saw guys playing that hadn't played earlier in the season much against Tennessee and Oregon because they were blowouts last year. So in a blowout, you'll see them. I'm pretty confident in that. So if you do see them, congratulations on the win.
Right. John Eric, winning is fun. I thought we covered this. Yes, winning is fun. You know what's fun? Kicking ass.
That's Ryan Day said it. Winning by more is also fun, and sometimes Ohio State doesn't win by enough for some people. But I agree. A win is a win is a win, especially tonight, and a win gets you to the Rose Bowl. And
I'm just looking. We have different passes, so I don't
know what that means.
Maybe I think you have field access and I don't, or something.
Oh, I did actually earn field access because, and this is a good story. Our buddy Andy Anders, right there, with the same yellow one. So the Big Ten gave Jerry Emick like 5 extra credentials to be on the field pre and post because nobody else, unless you're a photographer, is supposed to be out there, right? And so a few of them went to like the Dispatch and Cleveland.com. And then there was a contest basically held where Jerry had us pick a number between 1 and 1,000. And he had Stephen Means from Cleveland.com pick that number, impartial party. Andy Anders, he throws his number up there as like 618. And Means from the other side of the room goes, "What'd you say?" And so then I thought, oh boy, that's pretty close. So then I'm like, I was up next. I'm like 619. And it was like 6 away. So me and Anders both. So Andy got me. Andy, thank you. We're live, so please don't show up. But,
Andy Anders, a former intern of mine. So glad to see my son doing, my son out there doing well.
Thanks to Anders for getting me on the field and Means for having a terrible poker face.
I was like, why is your pass a different color than mine and everything else? But that'll keep me from being all, it used to be that you used to be able to go out to the field with 5 minutes left. I guess that's no more.
No more, I guess. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That means I can go down there later. I've got to get set up for the post-game show. I know you all are going to join us. It's going to be a late night, burn the midnight oil, but we will have a post-game show. Tom, Tony, myself, Mark Gibler, cast of thousands. We'll have post-game reaction, interviews, everything else. So be sure to set the alert, hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we're not running from a blizzard this week, so we can hang around for a little while longer.
I don't know. Our hotel is kind of in a sketchy neighborhood. I kind of want to get that door locked, but not to the point. We had to get housekeeping to let us into our room because the latch was there, and they easily defeated the latch.
Yeah, that
was troubling.
Yes, that was interesting to see how they did that. Great. That was great. Super chat from Mateo and Fuego. Jeremiah Smith over under 100 yards receiving tonight. Kevin, did you have any friends in Vegas that suggested or advised?
I did not. I could put out a message to one right now and look, but I didn't look specifically at that because I'm kind of afraid of that number because I just don't know, because you don't know. Okay, he's by all accounts in good health right now and everything else. I mean, I'm not expecting to see him on the questionable list. Certainly not expecting to see him on the out list, but. With that being said, what are the plans for him? What does Indiana do? I mean, does Indiana just say, well, we're going to just bracket him all game? I mean, Indiana has a say in this equation as well. Now, Indiana's not going to be able to shut everybody down if everybody is able to go right. But, I think my inclination is to say under. But, that's just, I'm just a skeptic.
Well, yeah, I mean, the better odds are under, but we're not playing odds like this is a tough one for me because I always go back to what Jermaine Matthews said when he was asked who is the more difficult guy to cover, Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate, and he said it's Carnell because you always have safety help with Jeremiah. And so when you're thinking about the safety help with Jeremiah, like that's going to impact his yards. But I'm never going to say no to Jeremiah Smith.
Well, I mean, I probably have just sat there and made it so he's going to go for like 220 or something like that, but I'm going to still say under just because I think that they're going to be like, we're just not going to let this guy beat us. And, of course, the problem is then does that mean you're going to let Carnell Tate beat you? There was another one in here. I think I moved past it. Somebody saying that Ennis and Claire were going to have big games. I mean, that's the thing. Ohio State's got a lot of ways to do this.
Well, Ennis and Claire, either one of them could have a big game and it would be 4 for 36, but those 4 are timely or touchdowns.
Move the chains.
Right. And so they're both going to be very effective in that. And it's one of the things about Indiana's defense. They like to play 3 linebackers as much as they can, which then if one of those 3 linebackers has to be in coverage against one of those 2 Ohio State receivers, be it Claire or Ennis, that's an advantage for Ohio State. They also like to use those linebackers to rush the passer because they don't get a lot of pass rush from the front per se, so they like to create it through their linebackers. So there's so much of this Indiana defensive attack that is focused on the linebackers, which is why they like to have them out there. But in terms of coverage, I think there's an area there that Ohio State can take advantage of, and that's not even getting into moving Jeremiah and Carnell into the slot and motioning them and how Indiana deals with that. There are ways. Ohio State has seen all of these different coverages, and it's Jeremiah Smith is still going to be a Biletnikoff finalist. I don't know if he's got the numbers to win it, even though everybody has respect for him. I think you still have to put up some numbers. Going
Is it him? Is it Malachi Lemon? I don't remember who the third finalist was, but yeah.
Yeah, I just when you to combine the passing games where Jeremiah 100 or Ennis and Claire, every catch that Ennis and Claire make is a catch that Jeremiah doesn't, and so I think this is going to be a well-rounded passing attack. So I would still go under on Jeremiah, but never going to be surprised by anything he does. Even when he does something crazy, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes sense.
Just to answer an earlier question for somebody, then we'll get to David Burke Super Chat. Where's Tom? Tom is shooting some footage for us right now. He may make a surprise appearance in the show here in a little bit, but we will see there. But he is putting up great content that you can only see at BuckeyeHuddle.com, youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, why don't you just subscribe to BuckeyeHuddle.com? Where we are right now, this would get you through Ohio State's first round, its first game in the quarters, I guess. Potentially the Rose Bowl, whatever that may be. This is time to get on board. All the great analysis. Tom, Tony, myself covering the team, Mark Gilbert covering recruiting, Andrew Ellis covering the boards, Ross Fulton and his team of experts doing X's and O's. The most chill, awesome community with the Huddle Board presented by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse Columbus, all available at BuckeyeHuddle.com. I'm urging you, please. We love the Super Chats, but another great way that you can support us is by being a member at Buckeye Huddle. And Google doesn't get its grubby mitts on any of that money.
And we will have a clip from Ross later in the show breaking down some X's and O's in this game, so you get an idea of what he does, and if you don't already know, and I'm sure you do. Super chat from Dave Burke. What would be an indicator we might see in the first quarter that Ohio State is going to have a good night? And boy, if they're able to run, or here's the thing. If Julian Saint has time to throw, I don't think they need to have a good night running. And if they're able to run, then he's going to have a great night throwing. So he's going to have plenty of time to throw. I think that's understood, right? But if Ohio State is controlling Fernando Mendoza and making him hold the ball a little bit and slowing him down in terms of his decision making, that to me, right away, would be a great sign where Indiana is prepared for this opening quarter and been prepared. They've got their script, they've got all of this, and if none of it works, then that tells you, boy, this is going to be a long night. Like Michigan, getting 2 short fields or the 2 field goal drives and not being able to get to punch it in. It was like, well, this is going to be a long game for Michigan once Ohio State scored, and I kind of feel like the same thing. Defense sets the tone, and if Indiana can't score, Indiana can't win.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going to go. I mean, I think my thing too is that if you look at the scoreboard and if Indiana's held to 0, because Indiana is going to be a team that I think it's going to, if it has success, it's going to be early in the game. I have my tail of the tape notes here. I'm looking for this because I don't have it memorized. Indiana's best scoring quarter is the third quarter, which kind of surprises me. Indiana is scoring 122 in the first quarter, 140 in the second, 160 in the third, and then just a measly 100 in the fourth quarter. But if Ohio State's able to kind of withstand Indiana's first 2 drives, I don't know if I see Indiana. I mean, maybe Indiana makes some halftime adjustments or things along those natures, but Ohio State Ohio State is really difficult. Ohio State has given up 12 points in the first quarter. 12 points. That's, hard to believe. If you want to get them, you get them in the second or the fourth. Ohio State's given up 29 points in the second quarter and in the fourth quarter, and just to round it out, 23 in the third quarter.
Well, and I don't believe they've given up a rushing. I don't think they've given up a passing touchdown in the first half this year. I think they've only given up 2 first-half touchdowns this year, if I'm remembering correctly, through all of the random notes and stats that I have in my head. So, it's hard to get Ohio State early very effectively. And then later on, sure, you score a touchdown and now it's 21-7. And it's well, good job. I mean, you still got a long ways to go. So I think this defense is just, I'm a believer. I may be the only one. I may be the only person that is actually believing that this defense is pretty good.
You're a believer. You're a Bieber or a Bieber or whatever the Bieber fans are. Super chat, Devin Paul. Tony, are you, Tom, and Kevin going to crawl around on the turf to get us confetti tonight? LOL. We appreciate the natty confetti.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be enough demand for this to go. I mean, it was an undertaking, and by undertaking, I mean it was Tom's job to get all that stuff sent out and everything else. And I think we need to hook it something more into membership for this year around. For new members and for members who up for another year and things of that nature. We did work poor Tom to death on that, didn't we?
Yeah, but it was worth it.
It was worth it
because it wasn't me doing it.
Right. Tom's labor.
But wherever there's confetti, we will be. But the last time we were here, I don't think they invested. They didn't even change the Colts paint end zones.
Well, that was 2020. That was COVID. It was 2020.
Not doing this confetti stuff. Not doing anything. So it's been so long since we've been here. We don't even know if they do confetti here.
I haven't even been downstairs yet. I don't even know what's going on. We can't. Well, I mean, being told from out in the gallery that we can't go. That those of us with the normal passes can't even go anywhere. So my post game plan will be to go down later and then go get set up for post game, I guess.
Because gentlemen.
Yes. Yes. Have fun with that. So it's all on you. So if you don't get it, then there you go.
It just requires me to work more, which is who's the idiot now?
Mateo and Fuego, how about 3+ year memberships? If anybody wants to prepay for 3 years memberships, we will send Tony over to your house with the confetti.
I still legitimately, the jacket that I'm wearing now, I can reach into my pocket and still pull out a little bit of confetti from the national championship because there's no getting all of the confetti out.
Right. I mean, it's like sand.
It is.
And I hate sand.
We all love confetti.
It really does get everywhere, and it's coarse. Yes.
All right.
All right. Enough of that. Star Wars deep cut for those of you who did not pick up the reference there. Thank you to Pat Murphy, who is sitting within earshot of us right now.
Always got a Star Wars ears on.
Let me go through. I've started some comments on here. Jamo Ashu 6498. Any idea about who'll be the OC and the wide receiver coach?
Well, an interesting thing that Mark Pantoni said in the press conference on Wednesday was that he was talking. It was 12:15 when he was talking. He's like, I'm sure Ryan Day at this point has 50 voicemails from the top wide receiver coaches all around the nation. And I'm thinking, well, and we know Ryan Day likes the internal hires as well. And Keenan Bailey has been around forever. He's worked with the wide receivers. Devin Jordan has been with Brian Hartline forever. I'm not sure what kind of recruiter he is. I think everybody is very confident in Keenan Bailey.
Keenan Bailey is a hell of a recruiter.
Yes, and he's been involved in the recruitment of everybody that has been on this Ohio State receiving roster. And you look at what he's done at tight end, where he's built one of perhaps the deepest tight end room in the country. So I don't think they want to lose him. And so with that in mind, you're going to have to do something with him. But also, the other thing about Bailey, I don't know if he's ready to call plays. He's the co-OC. He was basically Ryan Day's personal assistant coach, basically for a year. Where it's you just stay with me type of thing.
Progeny.
Yeah, and so he's been under the learning tree of Chip Kelly, Brian Hartline, Ryan Day. At some point, you'll see if he's ready. He's still relatively young, but so is Brian Hartline. So I see Bailey back unless Hartline can take him. But in terms of what Bailey's role is, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know if Brian Hartline is, I know that there is a definite connection between Hartline and Bailey, but, I think that when you're a first-year head coach, you probably want to bring in some coaches, assistants that have done their roles a little bit longer. And while I have no doubt that Keenan Bailey is going to end up being really successful with his career, and it's probably not all going to be at Ohio State because that's just the mercenary nature of the business. But, it'll be interesting because do you end up getting a case of where you bring in you could theoretically have a non-recruiting OC. You could bring in an offensive coordinator. You have no limits to the amount of coaches that you can have. You only have limits to how many you can have on the road. Could you bring in, I'm going to throw a name out there that's been thrown around to me, and I'm just without it, bring Chip Kelly back and say, Chip, you don't even have to go on the road. You don't even have to do this. You just can sit there and noodle plays and do all this stuff and go for it. And so who knows? I don't think that the expectation for Keenan Bailey at this point is that his next elevation needs to be the play caller, but I think that his next elevation might need to be the wide receivers coach.
Yeah, and I wonder with Chip Kelly, who is, I don't know what his contract says in terms of his $18 million.
His offset.
Yeah. So it's like, well, if I'm coaching, do I lose $12 million of that?
I think if he's making $6 million a year and he goes somewhere, and let's just say, just to keep the math easy, he gets paid $2 million a year, that means that Las Vegas would have to pay him $4 million a year. So they would offset it. That's generally how the offset language works.
For like the head coaches, I wasn't sure if it was that same way for the assistant coaches as well. It worked. Chip Kelly worked last year, and there was some concern. There was definitely concern, like, oh, he's leaving. Like, now what? And there was panic when he left, and it turned out okay. How long would you expect him to stick around for? And do you want an OC that doesn't recruit? Those are all things. Like, a full-time coach like that doesn't recruit.
Ohio State for years and years and years and years had an offensive line coach that didn't recruit, and that goes back multiple names. Bowen is the first one I can sit there and say that actually was an active recruiter. His predecessor and his predecessor and his predecessor were all, just going to call it what it is, recruiting challenged.
And Ryan Day even said it, or maybe Pantoni said it. I think it was Ryan Day on Wednesday. He said that Tyler Bowen's always bringing offensive linemen in, and there's just constantly. He's constantly meeting offensive linemen in the stadium or in the WAC, and like these are all like big dudes who look like they can play, and it just sounded like that's never happened before. It's like there would never be like the number of players that Bowen is bringing in just to recruit and to visit, like a lot of work, and it's like shouldn't that be the norm for every position where you're just constantly bringing in prospects?
Remember, going back to the Tressel regime, we'll get to Mateo and Fuego's super chat here in a second. Jim Tressel used to take great pride in, we brought in 32 official visits for 25 spots. He got like $10 a head for every official visit that he did not use or utilize. If you got the recruiting budget, use it. Bring in these names and faces and get familiar, because here's the thing with modern recruiting too. Just because you don't get somebody the first time around doesn't mean you can't get them the second time around.
Yeah, we saw that with Julian Sand, we saw it with Caleb Downs. But also, I'm not just talking official visits. I'm just talking, unofficial.
Just bringing them in for pizza or whatever.
Right.
I was going to say pizza and beers, but they're a little young for that.
Cheeseburgers? No cheeseburgers.
No.
Especially not for breakfast.
No. Or breakfast taco meat.
No.
Mateo and Fuego, super chat. Give me anyone that will both be a recruiter and a developer of the talent they bring in, plus be on board with OSU's brotherhood. Does Mateo and Fuego ask too much? Why don't you have him walk on water and shoot, thunderbolts out his arse?
The interesting thing is, Ryan Day went out and got Matt Patricia, and there was a stink eye to it. And it's like, he's never, can he recruit? Can he do this? Can he do that? And it turns out, he could pretty much do it all. And so then with this next hire, which may come from the NFL, where it's like, can he do this? Can he do that? At this point, I think Ryan Day has earned benefit of the doubt because he's been putting together a good staff, and then if it's not great, I don't think he lets them stick around. I think the Kerry Combs thing, that was a COVID thing, where, gosh, of course defense is bad. It's COVID. We'll bring it back one more year. Boom, still bad. All right, well, we'll see you. We've got to make a change here, and so he's willing to go away from his tree. He'll hire from outside. He's not just a guy that is just we're only going to do internal or we're only going to do the biggest name. He'll look hard, and he's got connections.
I had one over here. Okay, here it is from RKA 91. Do you think the D will actually blitz consistently tonight? I mean, are we unhappy with how the defense has been playing that we need to sit there and change the way things are done? I mean, does a mobile quarterback, I mean, do you run the risk of losing contain by trying to get after them, or should the goal be minimize what it is that Mendoza can do? And I mean, yeah, blitzes are cool and fun and everything else, but we already told you what's the most fun: kicking ass.
Well, the blitzing that I'll be interested to see is the Arvell Reese spying, and then, all right, enough spying. I'm gonna go get the quarterback, things like that. Now Mendoza has had some issues against the blitz this year, so I think you'll see some. I don't think they need to do it because they can cover and get pressure with their four, provided that's what they want to do. I think a lot of times where there's no pressure and people want to see some blitzes to create it, it's because they're just trying to keep the quarterback in the pocket and let the rest of the defense handle it. And so there'll be some blitzes. You may see Jermaine Matthews. He likes to do some of those things, but they're going to be concerned again about letting Fernando Mendoza out of the pocket. So just be aware that they may do more caging than you'd like to see, but it's been effective. I mean, it was effective against Texas because he only caged for so long, and then Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, goes and gets the quarterback or chases him into that cage, and then boom, the play is over.
Yeah, I for one am not concerned to the point of where Ohio State has to try and be something that it's not. That's not to say that Ohio State, doesn't practice blitzing and doing things of that nature, but I don't think that this is the time that you get out there and freelance. I mean, obviously, if you listen to a certain four-letter network, this game is largely an exhibition game because both teams, as we said earlier in the show, both teams are securely in the playoff. Probably both, barring 59-0, locks to have first-round buys and everything else. But this is not the time to get out there and try some completely different dance steps or break open that power ballad that you've never performed in front of a crowd.
Just always practice that in the shower.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Kevin, because this is the biggest football game in Indiana football history, right? Nobody's really talking about the pressure that creates, where, yes, it's 1 versus 2, which is enough pressure. It's a Big Ten championship game, enough pressure. You're going to have, 50% of the fans, maybe 60% of the fans watching you, creating that pressure. But this is the biggest game in the history of the program. If they were talking about that for Ohio State or anybody else, wouldn't there be more talk about can they handle that kind of pressure?
This is more pressure than a John Cougar Mellencamp concert. I mean, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure, and I think that everybody's like, well, Indiana, Google it. I mean, Google Signetti. He'll be able to handle this, and he'll be able to handle that. But it's not how the pressure is going to be on Signetti. It's going to be how the pressure is on Mendoza. It's going to be how the pressure is on Omar Cooper Jr., how it's on Roman Himby, how it's on D'Angelo Pons. How is that going to happen? I mean, you sit there, you let the pressure get to you, you let a ball go through your hands, you sit there, you miss a tackle or something like that, and then it just gets worse.
Well, and they've been able to overcome bad moments this year and been fine through it. But I just think there's something to the fact that this is the biggest game they've ever played in. And you mentioned adopting the confidence of your coach. they had that last year, and then Signetti admitted this past week that we probably weren't playing at Ohio State last year. They just mentally it was too much for them, and physically it was too much for them. And so it's we know Kurt Signetti is the most confident person you're ever going to meet, and his team has adopted that. But that's all well and good until things start to maybe don't go perfectly, and then it's like you've got the weight of this biggest game.
You have a plan until you get punched in the face?
Well, I think you have a plan until maybe you start to buckle from all of the different kinds of pressure that this game is. It's just one of these things that I keep thinking about. At Doug343 says, hit the like, aka the thumbs up. We would appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat on that. Always recommend being reminded to throw the thumbs up, especially if it's a super chat.
Absolutely. That is the best kind of thumbs up right there. One that comes attached with a little bit of moolah. Murphy Serafino, more pressure too. That's an Indy, probably going to be 70-30 Hoosier fans. WTF is a Hoosier.
Well, again, it's a person from Indiana. Now, in terms of the etymology of it and the lore and the background, there's some question about that. But again, no shade. I mean, we're all people here. Let's all live in peace. And but I am interested in seeing the breakout. I know there have been like ticket buying information out there in terms of like who's buying what from what zip codes and things like that. It's gonna be no way to tell until you, I guess, hear the responses from the touchdowns and the big plays, as it's all going to be the same color in here. I don't.
But you got scarlet on one side and crimson on the other side. Now, if you look at Pantone, the colors are going to be a little bit different.
You get the 440-246, you get the 363-6428. They're very similar, even though they're widely variant in number. But those Pantones are very, very similar. But I don't. Boy, I'd be surprised if Ohio State gets outnumbered 70-30 in this game. They don't. That doesn't. That wasn't 70-30 when they played TCU in Jerry World.
Right.
But
TCU wasn't as thirsty as Indiana is right now.
And Indiana knew they were going to this game for a longer period of time than Ohio State did. And now, like, Ohio State season ticket holders are trying to get tickets. They can't because the demand is far exceeded expectations. It's like, well, I don't know how that's possible. It may exceed your allotment, but it should never have exceeded your expectations. And so this is going to be a very, very expensive ticket. I do wonder how many people are going to end up swallowing their tickets because they're holding out hope somebody will buy them, and nobody's going to, because I'm not going to pay $1,000 when I've got to go to the Rose Bowl
right
in 4 weeks.
Somebody was posted like early when the show had started. I punched it up, but we never got to comment on it. That they saw, like, the cheapest they saw this morning was like $500. They're like, I'm an hour away, but it's a lot. I mean, just what they're asking for fans to do in terms of travel for all of this, it's hard to sit there and drop $500, $700, $1,000 on a ticket, and 500 is going to get you into like the 600 levels to where you can sit there and high five the ISS astronauts from up there.
Well, right now on ESPN, for this game, Big Ten Championship game, tickets as low as $647.
So jump on 500.
Now, if you'd rather go to the ACC Championship game, that's going to cost you $23. Still, it seems like too much. Both of them seem like too much.
I mean, if the ACC came with a barbecue dinner or something, then sure. Like, but it has to be good barbecue.
Yeah, it has to be like one of those $110 plates of meat.
Yes, like with beef ribs and things like that. Not just. I know in North Carolina it's all about the chopped pig, but I need some sides.
Right. Of course, you say it all the time.
Troy, they were asking about Indiana's colors being crimson and cream, and Troy V. Crimson and cream sounds like a song from the 80s, not to be confused with Crimson and Clover.
Can you give us a little bit of that, but don't get us demonetized?
We get demonetized, and the 300 plus people listening will all go off because I cannot carry a tune across the street.
No, that's not true.
No, I can't.
No, I've heard you sing. It's beautiful.
TK says side of pickles. No.
Pickles are a main. What are you talking about?
Here's a non-Ohio State football question from John Eric. If Bama gets blown out, will they still make the playoffs?
You're going to have such a fight to boot Alabama out because they're in the SEC championship game. You don't want to penalize them for losing that. They would never want to penalize them for losing that. But at what point does it just become enough where Alabama had 3 losses? You lost to Florida State. You lost to Oklahoma.
But look at how they're losing right now. I mean, again, it's been a defensive battle, but 2 minutes left in the second quarter. Alabama has 71 yards. 71 yards of offense, 18 rushing yards. Ty Simpson, 5 of 12, throwing the ball, 53 yards, and a pick. That's a 42% completion percentage. I didn't do the math myself. I have a program that did that for me, so you can count on it being correct. But, yeah, I mean, if Bama lays a 31-3 egg or something like that.
Well, and their best win this season is at Georgia. And so then if Georgia does this and negates the Alabama game or the Alabama's win, like I guess I'd be surprised that Alabama gets booted because they don't want to boot. They don't want to making a conference championship game when you're in the Big Ten or the SEC a thing that will penalize you, and this would definitely be a
penalization.
Yeah, but they've also said don't lose poorly. They said it 2 years ago at Big Ten meetings, Big Ten champion or Big Ten media days. Don't get blown out. Don't look bad in the conference championship game. So don't get blown out.
Don't get blown out, and sometimes when you get into weird situations of where you're in your 4th tiebreaker to determine who's going there. I mean, it's a team that wasn't a definitive, certainly wasn't the number 1 seed in the SEC. Yeah. So you're going to run into a little bit of that. But yeah, there'll be people who will howl that Ole Miss gets in, sitting around doing nothing right now other than being like, how did we end up with Pete Golding as our head coach? But not playing or anything like that. And they get in and Alabama, who's actually playing, gets left out. I mean, that would, nobody's going to be happy. Yeah. They're going to be BYU supporters. They're going to be unhappy. And BYU got its butt kicked up and down the field today by Texas Tech.
Boy, yeah, and that eliminated.
Not that we could tell our hotel somehow didn't have ABC.
That game eliminated a lot of the concern for Alabama. Maybe which is why they're losing now because they let out a sigh of relief, like we're going to make the playoffs. And meanwhile, you got James Madison winning, and then if Duke wins, you're going to have James Madison and. Not North Texas, but Tulane in there, and so that's going to knock out Notre Dame or Alabama if Duke wins.
Right. I mean, Alabama that's getting kind of smoked right now, and Notre Dame that's just sitting at home trying to figure out how to spell Jeremiah. That's right. I went there. Apparently, Justin Hill made a nice tackle. Former Ohio prep star who ended up leaving and going to Alabama. I think that everybody's hopeful that if Alabama falls apart, to maybe bring him back home. Maybe they'll use the jack at some point.
Well, that Alabama pipeline has been pretty good for Ohio State. You send a player to a JUCO for a year or two, and then you can bring him over to Ohio State.
It's Prop 48.
Provided the credits carry over.
Part D.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the lines. Lines haven't significantly moved. Still 4.5 right now. You can get it at 4.5 on MGM, FanDuel, and Fanatics, DraftKings, Bet365, and Caesars have it at 4. And that's according to Covers.com. So I cannot speak for how up to date these times are, but it says it was updated as of the last minute.
Yeah, down on the corner earlier, I talked to a guy and I was like, "What can I get in for?" And then he wrote it in his notebook, and so. But I probably should be saying that.
I thought you were going in for something else about like what you were talking to like a scalper about what he was charging for tickets. So you'd confuse me. Though that was always one of my favorite stories to do before things really got widespread with SeatGeek and sites like that. You had to actually talk to a scalper, and it's like, look, you're not competing against anybody. I just want to know what are you asking? What are you asking? Maybe that's not what you get right there, but Georgia has the ball across midfield, 46 seconds left. I can kind of see the game from the corner of my eye, but I've got a stat monitor up too.
Yeah. All right.
Chad W says Alabama is out. We'll see.
We will see. I'm punching this one up here from Rick's. I'm watching you guys instead of Tim May. I can't think of a bigger expression of my love for Buckeye Huddle than giving up my pregame dose of Tim May. I'm going to let him know that.
Yes.
And, I don't know if he'll be upset about that. I will. I'll give him your and let him know that you're doing that. But we do appreciate that. Any eyeballs? Good eyeballs.
Is it Eli Ricks? That would be something right there. That would be Eli Ricks. Finally, he's on board now. He's on board. Let me see what else we got here. We got another one from Murphy Serafino, who's been very active on our chat. So you want to get your questions in. First of all, super chats get you to the top of the line. But second of all, we're just sitting here spending time talking to y'all. Right. So just have fun with us. Just got the feeling Buckeye fans care about this game, but not as much. Too expensive, and we have playoff games to go to. Well, Indiana has playoff games to go to too, but they have not had to do it year in and year out. And I'm gonna say the quiet part out loud. They haven't really had anywhere to go with basketball either.
So that's why they're playing here today. But it is an interesting thing where this is the cheapest post game for Ohio State fans. Even though we're just talking about $600 to get in, it's going to be the cheapest.
There are no flights.
Generally, no flights.
No flights, more or less. I mean, hotels are outrageous.
Yes.
I mean, we're at the Notel Motel, and all in was $140, and it's sketch.
The night's in, it's perfectly fine. You get a free breakfast. They slide some bread under the door. It's perfectly fine. But to go from here then to the Rose Bowl, and then you got to decide, which am I going to go to? Which am I going to, or it may not be the Rose Bowl, it may be the Cotton Bowl or whatever. But you've got to decide when, or I'm gonna let it ride one more, and I'll save it for the Peach Bowl. Or I'm going to save it for Miami. You've got to. These things were never meant for everybody to go to every game. It's okay.
Just a fortunate few, yeah.
Right. It's okay for everybody to get to experience these games, but you gotta decide which one you're going to go to. And fortunately, this is the easiest for most Ohio State fans to get to. But again, I could spend $1,000 on this, or $1,500 on this, or put a pretty good dent in the Rose Bowl trip.
Right. And I'm going to be honest, I love Indianapolis. I love, they do such a great job putting on games and everything else. But you sit there and it's like Pasadena, Indianapolis. If I can only choose one,
right,
I know where I'm going. Ricks is telling us he's not related to Eli Ricks, to his knowledge. It's his loss that he's not related to me. Fair. So there you go.
Fair.
And Sage Ohio says, who's Eli Ricks? I'll tell the story over at Buckeye Huddle at some point. I mean, he major recruiting target that Ohio State couldn't even get the second time around.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure that this is a fresh one that from Warpug. Go ahead.
Yeah, from Warpug. I think Ryan Day hinted at his plan after the Michigan game when he mentioned how different the game would be if it were indoors. And he had a sly smile when he mentioned that. And I do think there's a difference between Michigan secondary and Indiana secondary. I think I would, and frankly, back seven, the entire back seven is better for Indiana than Michigan. And watching Michigan all year long, it was just easy to see how vulnerable they were to Ohio State's passing attack, which is one of the reasons why he said it's on fast track. But I also think there's a ton of confidence in this offense, on places like this where everything is controlled, where they don't have to worry about footing, don't have to worry about wind, don't have to worry about anything, and they can just let it go. And this is going to be one of the few opportunities where they can do that. And frankly, they may have to early on.
I think that, you can't get yourself into a significant deficit. So especially if Indiana comes out and has some early success in this game, you've got to sit there and say, all right, we've got to keep up there, because momentum means something. And if this place is 65-35, 70-30 or whatever, we talked about the pressure 15, 20 minutes ago. The pressure will become very real. So I think you need to sit there and go for it. But, with that being said, I don't think we're going to see Ohio State just come out right out of the gate and just, start running nines.
So give the people your score prediction.
I have Ohio State winning 35-24. I said experience matters. This is, a very talented roster that they're going against, but, let's be honest, 1-22, not really the same thing. 1-85, not really the same thing. But with that being said, I think there is a lot of talent equated parts to it. So I'm going to go to experience. Ohio State went through a 4-game run last year with everything on the line. This is the biggest game in Indiana football history, bar none. They haven't won a conference title since 1967, which is even older than me. They're going to feel a lot of pressure. They get up a little bit. Or are they going to Toronto Blue Jays it? If they get down a little bit, are they going to Toronto Blue Jays it? Basically, to hell with the Toronto Blue Jays. Go Dodgers. But yeah, I think that they're gonna feel the pressure.
So I went 31-20 Ohio State. I just don't know if there's going to be enough possessions in this game to score more than that. I think if you give them more possessions, give either team more possessions, Ohio State's more likely to score a higher percentage of their possessions. I feel like 20 might be high, but I also know that this is going to be the best offense Ohio State has faced. So I went 31-20. I think Tom went something like 27-17, which is I think what I went last week. So I think we could go ahead and I don't know if you want to queue up the Ross. Are we done with?
Yeah. Well, let me just do this here. Somebody was saying that the sound is poor. Stephen Lenore's. Is anybody else struggling with the sound? I just want to make sure, just so we know how our setup works. Yeah. We're always trying to improve our setup. We're doing something, we're shooting off a phone instead of a camera in here. And we're both right. Jason Warner says it sounds good on his phone. I just want to make sure that this isn't widespread. I mean, we want to make sure we have M. Smith saying it's not having any problems. Sage, all right. I don't know what to say on there. I'm apologizing that you're having a sound issue. Maybe try us on a different browser. But now we can get to Ross.
Yeah, and before Ross, I'll just say we're gonna leave with Ross. We've gone an hour.
Yeah.
Tom,
they're gonna bring the food out here in a minute.
It's gonna get
ugly.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and don't go watch Ross. He's got some X's and O's for you. Very make you more informed as always. But we do want to thank you all for tuning in and the super chats. And with all of that said, we will be back after the game, as you know, immediately after the game. Mark will be there, and we'll have live coverage until the cows come home. And there are
until they kick us out.
Until they kick us out. So that said, Ross, take it away.
Here are some key things that I'm looking for on each side of the football today in the Ohio State-Indiana game. Starting with the Indiana defense, I think the biggest issue for Ohio State is handling all the stunts and loops and games that Indiana will use up front. They're an undersized defense. They know they can't just play straight up against Ohio State up front. Instead, the defense is predicated on movement. Obviously, Ohio State has had some issues with that this season. I think that's improved in recent weeks. They didn't have to face a lot of that from Michigan, however. And I think the question is, picking up loopers, whether that's in the run game, in combinations when Ohio State's running counter, figuring out who needs to be blocked, or in the zone game, or in pass protection, picking up guys looping around, coming off the first level defender. That's going to be critical for Ohio State. To that end, as I said earlier this week, I think it's critical for Ohio State to throw the football early on early downs or standard downs. Indiana is a overwhelmingly zone coverage team, and I think on first downs, if last year's any indication, they're going to want to play more single high coverage to try to limit the Ohio State run game, try to get Ohio State behind schedule. If Indiana's in a lot of cover three, I would look for Ohio State to take advantage of that with the early down RPOs, some of those like free access hitch routes that Ohio State hit against Michigan to Carnell Tate last week, glance routes to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate and the like. I think Ohio State should be looking to throw early, try to, as I said, take advantage of more base looks in the secondary from Indiana. I think on passing downs, Indiana's and Brian Haynes are going to throw a lot at Julian Sand in the Ohio State blocking scheme in terms of simulated pressures, too high, 4 under looks, things of that nature, trap two. And so I think number one, I would look for Ohio State in the pass game to use a lot of 6 and 7 full man slide protections and let Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and Max Clare win. But number two, I think you just want to try to avoid those situations as much as possible. And I think the best way for Ohio State to do that, as I said, is to throw in early downs. One last thing in terms of the Indiana defense versus Ohio State offense. Indiana prefers to play with 3 linebackers in their base 4-3 look. So it will be interesting to see how much does Ohio State play 12 personnel. I expected some, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see more 11 with Brandon Ennis on the field than Ohio State's shown at other times this season. And even when they're in 12 personnel, spreading out Claire in particular, trying to take advantage, force those Indiana linebackers out of the box into playing space. I think that Ohio State will have opportunities with Claire in the middle of the field, as well as Bo Jackson in the passing game. But, generally speaking, as I said, if I was Ohio State, I'd be looking to come out throwing, similar to the Michigan game plan. Throw early, try to establish a lead, and then turn back to the running game. Defensively, again, as I said earlier this week, to me, defending Indiana starts with defending RPOs. They're just such a heavy run-pass option team. Personally, I think that what makes Indiana explosive and a threat is when they can throw those second and third level RPOs, those glance routes that can turn into explosives. And so if I'm Ohio State, I'm playing them with a light box. I think you mix cover one because cover one, in theory at least, takes away RPOs because everyone's got a man. And so there's no one in conflict, right? So, but then again, in cover one, you obviously have to defend everyone. And I'm sure, for as good as and he's been and his versatility, to allow Caleb Downs to play in the box, one plus matchup for Indiana is probably Omar Cooper in the slot against Lorenzo Styles in man coverage. So I don't expect man all the time. I think Ohio State will mix it in. I think they'll also play some quarters, cover 4 concepts, play the RPOs top down because, again, you have the numbers in your favor, right? So you're 3/2, 4/3. And you just want to mix it up. The other thing I would use is some of the 3 high Tampa with Caleb Downs as that middle Aztec pole runner position. Ohio State had success doing that last year against Indiana. And again, it's just messing with the RPO read, right? Because the inside receiver may not be covered up, but you have Downs there to sort of take away those glance routes. He can hold his water. And then once Indiana hands off the football and declares, he can add himself as an additional hat in the box. But Ohio State, I think the advantage in this game is Ohio State's defensive line against the Indiana offensive line. Indiana, they are technically sound on the offensive line. Particularly, they look to get, double teams, but they don't get a lot of movement on those double teams. And so they want to basically, stalemate and then get to the second level. And so if I'm on Ohio State, Indiana's a heavy zone team. I'd play a lot of penny, the 5-1 front. Even if you're spread out of the box, just count on those one-on-one matchups, for Caden McDonald, Kenyatta Jackson, and they'll like to win in single blocks. As I said, I'd force the handoffs and count on my defensive line to handle the run game. The last thing is it'll be interesting to see how much Ohio State pressures Indiana. I think other opponents this year have brought quite a bit of pressure at that Indiana offensive line and Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza has been susceptible to make mistakes against pressure, and Indiana has not held up at all the time against blitz schemes. And so again, from Ohio State's perspective, you want to take away the RPOs, force them to run, get Indiana behind schedule. And then I think you want to use, you don't have to bring cover 0 blitzes, but I do think, simulated pressures, you want to, give forward them, use zone blitzes. I would see, similar to the Rutgers game plan from Matt Patricia, I look for a lot of 2 high concepts, cover 2 looks, some of those inside outside brackets to the field, cover 2 trap pressures where you're bringing 5 and you're running 2 deep, 4 under, things that just are giving Mendoza a different picture. And I think so. The other way that they could do that on early downs is you're in your 5-1, you are moving the defense, slanting, 2 are from the halfback, and then that in the 5-1, the opposite defensive end is dropping out, like we see so much. The final thing I will say is, you do have to account for Mendoza as a runner, particularly as a scramble threat. And so I would look again for a lot of sort of contained pressures or using Arvil Reese as a spy. Maybe not every down, but I do think we will see some of that. I think you want to force him. He's very effective with his legs, as well as making plays outside of structure down the field. And, I think so. Again, for Ohio State, to me, you want to change up the picture. Indiana's so effective with those vertical back shoulder throws where, wide receiver at 10 yards, if he can't beat the defensive back, he's going to come back. Obviously, Ohio State's corners are big and have length, but can get handsy. And so I'm sure Indiana will be looking for pass interference calls. So you just want to change it up so that, Indiana can't always count on you're going to get a vertical release. Similar to what Michigan did to Ohio State on this same interception. Like, you look like cover one where you think you're going to have a one-on-one on the outside, but then you roll to cover two. And now the corner can play trail technique to take away that throw. You have a safety over the top. So again, I think it's just critical to change the picture. There's certainly been games this year where I think that Matt Patricia has held back on, the number of concepts they use. But again, I would look to the Rutgers game as sort of an example of what I think we're going to see from Ohio State in terms of just giving a variety of too high looks, taking away the flat, and just, changing the picture up. I think that again, as you probably tell, I think the key for Ohio State is up front. I think Ohio State should have an advantage on both the offensive and defensive lines and in space. And so I think, playing on a fast track indoors, I think you want to take advantage of that and sort of put your first playoff foot forward.